This tale revolves around a young woman named Eddie. At 14 years old, she finds herself in a vehicle with her mother and father. However, the peculiar aspect is that Eddie is behind the wheel. During their journey, a law enforcement officer signals them to stop, prompting Eddie's father to urgently declare, "Listen carefully, accelerate immediately, and escape before that officer reaches us," since her mother is transporting numerous illegal substances. Additionally, Eddie is below the legal driving age and shouldn't be operating a vehicle at 14. Nevertheless, her father continues applying pressure until he successfully persuades her to evade the officer and flee, causing Eddie to comply. Just as she prepares to press the accelerator, the narrative suddenly leaps 14 years forward, revealing Eddie as a mature, attractive woman celebrating her birthday alongside her closest companion. However, it becomes apparent that Eddie's economic circumstances are utterly catastrophic, and her existence consists entirely of disorder. Truthfully, though, her dearest friend genuinely cares for her and supports her like family. The evening concludes, and the following morning, Eddie awakens tardily, hastily dresses, and proceeds toward her vehicle. Unfortunately, the engine refuses to start. She becomes irritated and begins expressing profanity toward the automobile in the most offensive manner possible, while her neighbor and children observe. She quickly pivots and states, "Apologies, everyone. Pleasant morning," before departing for her workplace. Apparently, Eddie is employed at a financial institution, and immediately upon her supervisor's observation, he begins reprimanding her severely and delivering a comprehensive lecture. The absurd manager is grasping a fish within a sealed plastic container. There's no understanding of how the unfortunate creature is supposed to obtain oxygen. Unexpectedly, from nowhere, several criminals rush inside to execute a bank robbery. The supervisor immediately collapses to the floor in terror. The container tears, and the fish tumbles onto the ground. He remains paralyzed with fear, simply observing, incapable of taking any action. Meanwhile, Eddie attempts to advance and perform something courageous. However, before she can execute her initial action, one criminal strikes her head with a firearm, causing her to lose consciousness. Eddie regains awareness in the medical facility, and the physician examines her, stating, "You're completely healthy. No brain injury, nothing severe. Several cups of tea and you'll recover completely. Incidentally, when we discovered your pregnancy, we ensured extreme caution with the medications we administered." Eddie's eyes widen dramatically. "Wait, pause, hold on momentarily. What did you just state? Expecting. Where exactly did you obtain that information?" The physician responds, "Well, the examinations we conducted indicate you're pregnant." Eddie exclaims, "Expecting whose child?" The physician responds, "Pardon me," and she departs without additional words. Subsequently, she speaks with her closest friend who poses the identical question. "So, whose offspring is this?" Eddie confesses, "It belongs to Johnny." Her friend appears shocked. "Johnny, among all individuals you selected him for parenthood, that man is entirely unreliable. And listen, regardless of circumstances, absolutely refuse to return to him. Seriously, don't even consider it. Be grateful you're separated from him. Concentrate on your destiny and nurture this child independently." Eddie responds sharply, "Nurture what? Absolutely not. I'm not nurturing anything. I'm eliminating it." Her friend exhales deeply and states, "We'll discuss this subsequently." However, before departing, she reiterates her warning, "Don't approach Johnny. Focus on your existence." The subsequent day, Eddie is scheduled to complete an extremely significant university examination. Indeed, I'm uncertain how she's working at a financial institution while attending college simultaneously. Perhaps it's some type of apprenticeship or similar arrangement. Regardless, instead of attending the examination, she decides to confront Johnny and inform him about her pregnancy with his child. When she enters his residence, she discovers two men assaulting him in his bedroom. Startled, she retreats thinking, "What am I accomplishing here? This is the man I believed could nurture a child with me." However, naturally, Eddie returns again because she's completely blinded by her emotions and continues loving him. Without warning, she intervenes, battles the two attackers, and successfully liberates Johnny. The men flee, but obviously they don't simply abandon their pursuit. They begin pursuing Eddie and Johnny through structures and confined spaces, transforming everything into complete pandemonium. While Eddie and Johnny are jumping from room to room and rooftop to rooftop, Johnny is frantically attempting to clothe himself, securing shorts here, a jacket there, because when those two men attacked him, he was left nearly unclothed. Through pure fortune, the shorts he obtained contained a vehicle key in the pocket. He immediately presents it to Eddie and declares, "Operate the vehicle, darling," because Eddie happens to possess extraordinarily skilled driving abilities. And we witness that expertise in complete display during the pursuit. The men following them possess no understanding of how to handle her automotive skills. Johnny, meanwhile, is delighted, completely amazed at Eddie's driving capabilities. The chase transforms into a savage, intense, endless vehicular pursuit. However, Eddie suddenly engages reverse and collides with the opposing vehicle, disabling it, then casually accelerates toward freedom. After escaping, she stops beside the road, exits the automobile, and informs Johnny, "You understand what? Returning to you was an enormous error. I barely spent moments with you, and already I'm deeply immersed in chaos. Curse your unfortunate circumstances." She's prepared to depart, but Johnny desperately clings to her, grateful she appeared. He begins revealing his difficulties, explaining that if she abandons him, he'll never survive his current predicament, and they'll certainly eliminate him. He insists he requires her assistance, and as we already understand, Eddie is completely vulnerable regarding him. Totally blinded by affection, she inquires, "Acceptable, what did you ruin this time?" Johnny admits he was assigned a task but failed, and the individual who employed him is someone called Nico. He explains that since he ruined that mission, Nico has been pursuing him relentlessly. Surprisingly, Eddie realizes she recognizes Nico. Shortly afterward, Nico personally contacts her and states, "Listen, I understand Johnny's accompanying you. Transport him to my location within 1 hour, both of you." Then he disconnects. Eddie understands she possesses no alternative but to comply, because if there's one thing she comprehends, it's that Nico can locate her anywhere if she attempts to escape. Therefore, she and Johnny proceed to meet him. It was absolutely clear that Nico maintained tremendous respect for Eddie, completely unlike Johnny, whom he constantly degraded and treated disgracefully. Nico could observe that Eddie was dragging herself into infinite trouble because of Johnny, and he understood precisely how to exploit that situation. He informed her directly, without softening. "Here's the arrangement. There's a task I require you to execute for me. You're going to steal $3 million. If you succeed and deliver me the money, I'll release your precious Johnny. However, if you fail, then I'll ensure Johnny gets dismembered into fragments. So what's your decision, Eddie?" Naturally, she possessed no choice. Despite the pain, she was compelled to agree because, for the 30th time, she's hopelessly infatuated with Johnny. After departing from Nico, she immediately begins criticizing Johnny. "You're constantly like this. Difficulties, difficulties, difficulties. Every time I turn around, you've dragged yourself into another catastrophe, and I'm the person who must rescue you. How many times have I saved you previously? You never learn." Johnny attempts to pacify her. "Hey, relax. Did you forget everything I've accomplished for you?" Eddie rolls her eyes. Oh, here we proceed again with the identical old statement. "Don't worry, I remember every single thing. Nothing's forgotten. But that doesn't excuse the mess you're always creating for me." And honestly, what exactly did Johnny ever accomplish for her? We'll discover that subsequently, my friends. Anyway, Eddie takes Johnny, and they enter the car to meet the individuals who are supposed to organize this major task. During the journey, Johnny suddenly asks her, "So, what did you accomplish during those 3 months we weren't together? Did you meet anyone else? Because I become really jealous, Eddie." She responds harshly, "You understand what? I don't possess the patience for this. Look at this. Silence. Don't speak a single word until we arrive." When they finally reach the location, they sit down to await the crew who will organize the heist. Johnny, naturally, cannot remain still without creating trouble. True to his nature, he begins provoking two random men who are minding their own business playing pool. Major mistake. The two men grab him and beat him severely right then and there. While they're assaulting Johnny, a man suddenly enters with a firearm and a group of his associates. He states, "Perfect. Just perfect." then asks Eddie which one of the three matters to her. Eddie indicates Johnny. The man instructs the other two men to leave and then sits down with Eddie and Johnny to explain the task. It appears there's going to be a high-stakes poker tournament, and the victor of that game will depart with $3 million. Their strategy is simple: steal the money. And naturally, they need Eddie, because she's the person who's going to operate the escape vehicle. Johnny and Eddie both accept the task, but then the man pulls Eddie aside for a private conversation. He informs her, "Look, the man you're with, Johnny, he cannot participate in this. He's a walking catastrophe, reckless, unstable, and guaranteed to destroy the operation if he joins." Eddie insists, "No, it's impossible. Johnny must participate in this task." The man frowns and asks, "Why are you so attached to him? I've heard he's caused you nothing but trouble. Why remain with him like this?" Eddie sighs and states, "Fine, I'll explain. When I was 16, my father had experienced an accident and couldn't support me anymore. Some man eventually took me in, but he wasn't a decent person. One day he attempted to sell me to another man who wanted to commit terrible acts against me. He placed me in his car, drove me to a public garage, and waited there. The other man arrived, handed over some cash and a stash of narcotics, and then attempted to assault me. Just when I thought I was finished, from nowhere, Johnny appeared, dragged both men from the car, and beat them so severely they couldn't even stand. That man was Johnny. From that day forward, I knew him. And since then, I've been loyal to him. My loyalty to Johnny will never end." Hearing this, the man has nothing remaining to say. He shrugs and finally tells her, "Fine, have it your way, but Johnny is your responsibility." The very next day, they begin preparing for the heist. First destination: a man who works at the casino, specifically the one responsible for transporting cars inside the building for display. They slip him a bribe and tell him, "Destroy this car." The man doesn't ask questions. He simply grabs the remote for the crane and smashes the car into fragments. Now, you might be wondering, why destroy the car? Well, here's the strategy. Their plan is to exchange that destroyed car with one of their own, but modified and equipped with everything they'll need for the heist. And that's exactly what they accomplish. Afterward, they proceed to the hotel connected to the casino and register, pretending to be regular guests. By pure coincidence, they spot a man named Baram. Baram works the same questionable kind of jobs they do. The moment Eddie and Johnny see him, they realize something's wrong. Baram must be here to steal the same $3 million they're pursuing. They confront him, attempting to get a straightforward answer, but Baram simply evades the question. It's obvious what his intentions are, though. Immediately, Eddie calls Nico. She's furious. "Hey, did you send Baram to steal the same money we're supposed to grab? What the hell are you planning?" But Nico sounds genuinely puzzled. He tells her, "I don't understand what you're discussing, and I definitely didn't send Baram. Why would I hire both of you for the same task?" Then he tells her to leave it to him. He'll make a few calls and determine who actually sent Baram. Later, Johnny and Eddie proceed to their hotel room, and it's there in privacy that Eddie finally tells Johnny she's pregnant. Johnny is stunned. "Wait, what? You've been away from me for 3 months." Eddie rolls her eyes and says, "You fool. I told you I'm 3 months along." Johnny pauses, then suddenly breaks into a huge smile. He's actually delighted, thrilled that he's going to become a father. Imagine that. A man with no future, about to risk his life in a massive robbery, and he's celebrating fatherhood. Still, he looks her in the eye and speaks a few sweet words. He promises her that after this task, they'll abandon this life forever and live clean, honest lives. The next day, Johnny appears with a gift for Eddie, a gold chain with a small baby charm hanging from it. He whispers a few sweet words, and for a moment, it's all romance. But that doesn't last long, because soon enough, it's time for the major task. The poker tournament commences, and at the conclusion, one fortunate winner departs with the prize. $3 million stuffed into a bag and secured inside the specially modified car the crew had planted earlier inside the casino. But before Eddie and Johnny can even begin the task, trouble discovers them. Remember those two thugs Johnny fought earlier? Yes, they spot him again, pure coincidence, and immediately attack him. Security rushes toward the fight, and that's when Eddie improvises. She slips into the car and starts the engine. The guards notice and surround her, asking politely, "Ma'am, please exit the vehicle." Of course, she ignores them. Instead, she slams the car into reverse and chaos erupts. Eddie's driving transforms the entire casino into a demolition derby. At one point, she slams on the brakes because a pregnant woman suddenly steps directly in front of her path. For a second, everything freezes. Then, a security guard raises his gun and fires at Eddie's windshield, but he's too late. The car is bulletproof. Eddie smirks, shifts gears, and blasts her way out of the casino. That's when the police join the chase. Eddie takes them through underground garages and across city streets, smashing cruisers left and right until their cars are totaled. You'd think it's over, but no. Bahram appears, determined to steal the prize for himself. First, he eliminates the cops, flipping one cruiser, then aiming for another. But before he can pull the trigger on the second officer, Eddie swerves in and takes the bullet herself, saving the cop's life. The cop, instead of being grateful, keeps pressuring her like she's the criminal. Eddie snaps. Are you insane? She slams her car into his, forcing him off the road. Now it's just her versus Bahram. Meanwhile, Eddie's shouting, Johnny, where the hell are you? It's your turn, fool. And right on cue, Johnny appears. He rams Bahram. Bahram rams back until finally Johnny loses control. His car flips, crashing violently. Eddie forgets everything, the money, the plan. She rushes to Johnny's wreck. He's badly injured, and while she's pulling him out, Bahram calmly drives off with the bag full of cash. Later that evening, Bahram stops at a small roadside motel, transferring the stolen money into another car. That's when Eddie emerges from the shadows. Bahram freezes. How the hell did you locate me? Eddie smirks. Simple, I planted a GPS in the car. But Bahram's not surrendering that easily. He reaches for his weapon. Suddenly, Johnny limps out from the darkness holding a gun of his own. Bang! He shoots Bahram, then walks up, finishing him off at close range. Together, they recover the $3 million. The next morning, as they prepare to deliver the money to Nico, Johnny turns to Eddie and says, You understand what? I want another child. Eddie stares at him like he's lost his mind. Are you joking? We can't even afford the first one. But Johnny insists, Don't worry about money. From now on, I'm here. I won't disappoint you again. I'll never make you cry. For the first time, Eddie feels like she has someone reliable by her side. She smiles and says, All right, let's deliver the cash and start fresh. But then, plot twist. Instead of handing over the money, Johnny pulls out his gun and eliminates the very man who organized the heist along with his right-hand man. Eddie stands frozen, unable to believe what just occurred. Johnny, the man she loved, just killed their boss. He jumps into the car trying to convince her this was the correct move. We're a family now, and we need every dollar. Don't worry, I've got it all figured out. But Eddie can't stop crying. Deep down, she knows Johnny's wrong. And slowly, so does Johnny. He starts mumbling, breaking down. What the hell did I just do? What's wrong with me? I'm not thinking clearly. Eddie, with tears streaming down her face, embraces him one final time, then pulls the trigger. She ends it right there. The most difficult decision of her life, but the only one that could keep her alive. That evening, Nico returns home with his right-hand man, but inside, Eddie is waiting, gun in hand. Nico waves his assistant away. Leave us. He sits down and listens as Eddie tells him everything. Surprisingly, Nico smirks. You did the correct thing. I was planning to eliminate Johnny myself. Then Eddie drops another bomb. By the way, it was your assistant who hired Bahram. Nico doesn't flinch. I know. He's been stealing from me for years, but the truth is he loves me. He's loyal in his own way. That's why I've never pulled the trigger. But soon, I'll decide his fate. Afterward, Eddie opens up about her brutal past, foster homes, abuse, betrayal. Nico listens carefully, then tells her, It's time to stop rescuing everyone else. Start rescuing yourself. She nods. You're correct. That's exactly what I'm going to do. As she turns to leave, Nico stops her. Take 10% of the money. Eddie smirks. Too late. I already took 20%. Nico laughs, lets her go, and calls his assistant back inside. As Eddie walks away, gunshots echo from the house. Looks like Nico finally made his choice. Years later, Christmas Eve, Eddie has constructed a new life, a house, a garage of her own, a business, friends, neighbors, and most importantly, her child, now older, running around with joy. At night, her closest friends and family gather at her home. There's food, laughter, and warmth. For the first time in her life, Eddie isn't running, she isn't fighting, she's finally home. And that's how the story concludes. So, if you enjoyed this incredible journey, don't forget to drop a like, leave a comment, and share so more people can experience this story. And of course, if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button and activate notifications so you never miss the next video.